All right, let's talk about large language models. We've all seen them generate text that is just incredibly fluent, totally convincing. But here's the scary part. They often sound right even when they're dead wrong. They can fail silently. And as developers, we can't just cross our fingers and hope for the best. We need to get under the hood and actually measure what's going on.
So let me just start by asking you a question. Imagine you've just trained a new model. You run the numbers and it's hitting 99% accuracy. That feels amazing, right? Nearly perfect? Is it good enough to ship?
Well, the real answer is it completely depends. Because everything that matters might be hiding in that tiny little 1% of cases where it fails. And that 1% could be where all the critical, high-stakes errors are living. And that idea brings us right into our first section, what I like to call the accuracy trap. We're going to break down exactly why hanging your hat on a single accuracy score can be so, well, so dangerous. You see, this is the heart of the problem. Accuracy is great when you have a nice, even split between your data. But let's be real, the world is messy. Data is almost never perfectly balanced. Think about something like fraud detection, right? The vast majority of transactions, like 99.9%, are totally legit. A lazy model could just predict not fraud every single time and be 99.9% accurate while being completely useless. Let's raise the stakes. Medical diagnosis. A model with 99% accuracy sounds incredible, but what if that 1% failure means it misses the one patient who actually has a life-threatening disease? Suddenly, that 1% isn't just a number. That single failure, totally hidden by the shiny overall score, is catastrophic. So, if accuracy is a trap, how do we escape it? We need a better tool, something that gives us a much more detailed breakdown of what's going right and what's going wrong. It's time to open up the developer's toolbox and unpack the confusion matrix. Now, the name confusion matrix sounds a little intimidating, but it's actually super simple. It shows you exactly how your model is getting confused. Think of it less as a single score and more as a detailed report card. It doesn't just tell you if a prediction was right or wrong, it tells you the type of right and the type of wrong. Let's make this real with a spam filter. Look at the top left corner. True positives. We correctly flagged 50 emails as spam. Awesome. Now, bottom right. True negatives. We correctly identified 35 legitimate emails. Perfect. But now, let's look at the other two boxes, where things got messy. We have 10 false negatives, that's spam that we missed, and 5 false positives, that's good email that we accidentally junked. And this is the whole point. Not all errors are created equal. These two types have totally different consequences. A false positive means an important email from your boss might end up in your spam folder. That's annoying, for sure. But a false negative, that means a phishing attack just landed right in your inbox. That's dangerous. This simple grid tells us if our model is being too aggressive or way too cautious. And as soon as you start thinking about those two different kinds of errors, you run headfirst into the central challenge of building any classification model, the critical trade-off. You see, you can almost never get rid of both types of errors at the same time. You usually have to choose which one you're more willing to live with. To help us manage this trade-off, we've got two key metrics. First up is precision. I like to think of this as the exactness metric. It answers a very specific question. When my model says something is positive, how often is it actually correct? You crank up the precision when a false alarm, a false positive, is really, really costly. Then, on the other side of that coin, we have recall. This is the completeness metric. It asks a different question. Of all the actual positive cases out there, how many of them did we manage to find? You absolutely need high recall in situations where missing something, like in disease screening, is simply not an option. So what do you do when you can't just pick one? When you need a balance between being exact and being complete? Well, that's what the F1 score is for. It's a clever way of blending precision and recall into a single number so you can optimize for a healthy middle ground. Okay, so we've got a handle on classification. But what happens when LLMs are actually generating text from scratch? Writing summaries or translating languages? A confusion matrix isn't going to do us any good there. We need a whole different set of tools to figure out if the model is generating fluent nonsense or something with actual meaning. The first tool we can grab is called perplexity. It sounds complicated, but it basically measures how surprised a model is by the text it's supposed to predict. Think of it like a guessing game. A low perplexity score means the model is really confident about what word comes next. It's not perplexed at all. It's a fantastic way to measure the text's fluency. But here's the thing. Fluent and correct are not the same. That's why we have other metrics. You've got the classics like BLU and ROG, which pretty much just compare word overlap. BLU is focused on precision, so it's great for machine translation. ROG is all about recall, which makes it perfect for summarization. The catch is, they don't really understand synonyms or rephrasing. That's where a modern metric like BERT score comes in. It actually compares the semantic meaning of the texts, which is way, way smarter.
So we've looked at metrics for classifying things and metrics for generating things. What does it all boil down to? Well, that brings us to our final and honestly our most important section, measure what matters. If you take one thing away from this, let it be this. Evaluation is not something you just tack on at the end. It is foundational. It's infrastructure. There is no single best metric. The right tool, whether it's precision, recall, or BERT score, depends completely on your goal and on the specific type of failure you absolutely have to avoid. And that takes us full circle, right back to the beginning. That high accuracy score can feel really comforting, but it might just be a blanket covering up the very failures that could bring your project down. So I'll leave you with this question to think about for your own work. What kind of failure is your model hiding?